Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours for July 26th, 2022. I spent some time on Tuesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern responding to questions that people send me in advance of the show and to questions that are forwarded to me during the show. By the way, all you have to do is put your questions into chat and I'll get to them today. And I'll bump some of the folks who are ahead of you, who forwarded questions in advance. So if you've got a question that relates to job search, hiring, management, leadership, changing careers, or you want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it for you. Also, I'm going to remind you my website, thebiggamehunter.us, has a ton in the blog that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you find work more quickly, manage more effectively, lead, all the stuff that I mentioned earlier. There's a ton that's available in the blog. Most of it's about job search because I worked in recruiting for many years. Excuse me. But it's a great resource to help you. And in addition, while you're there, you can schedule time for a free discovery call, schedule time for coaching, find out about my courses, which you can rent or buy, my books and guides. There's just a lot there to help you. Also, subscribe to jobsearchtv.com on YouTube. You can download it as an app on Amazon. I'll also mention this will be up on Friday with Friday's show. I'm being carried by bingenetworks.tv, which distributes to like 300 some odd streaming platforms around the world. So if you want to watch me through bingenetworks.tv, because you don't have Amazon, you want to watch me on your big screen set, you can do that as well. Again, BINGE TV, I'm sorry, bingenetworks.tv. You can watch me on Binge. Just search for Job Search TV. I have probably 1,000 videos up there. Not as many as my YouTube channel, but still, it's a lot, and you can watch me on your big screen set. So I've received a lot of questions in advance today, and I will cover more if you put them into chat. So I just want to say that clearly because sometimes people go, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. And you can't. So the first question is, what do people frequently get wrong when they write cover letters? The first thing they get wrong is if they're submitting a cover letter as part of an email, they send it as an attachment. No one's going to open the attachment. Put it in the body of the email rather than as a separate file because no one will open the second file. They'll look for the one that suggests resume or avoid the one that suggests it's a cover letter. Put it in the body of the resume, of the email, I should say. In addition, the cover letter is too generic. It does nothing to function like an appetizer that makes people excited to open the resume. So if all you do is send a generic cover letter that goes, I'm forwarding my resume to you because I saw the position advertised for such and such. I believe I'd be a great fit for this role and it'd be a terrific opportunity for me. I look forward to hearing from no one cares. It's useless. However, if you connect the dots between what you've done and what they're looking for, that's a useful cover letter. So the question was, what do they get wrong? They do nothing to make people feel like it was time worth spending and making them excited to open the actual resume. That's what they get wrong. We go to the next one, which is, do interviewers using a structured interview approach feel more prepared when interviewing candidates? Well, I suspect so. I know I used the structured approach when I interviewed people when I still did search. And what I wanted to ensure is that at a minimum, I asked everyone the same basic questions in order to ensure that I took the time to determine if someone was qualified for a role with a client of mine. And thus, in asking structured questions, I was able to start off by obtaining a benchmark of knowledge from people that would allow me to confirm that. And then from there, I dig in deeper. In digging in deeper, what I was trying to find out was, can they be conversational? Can we connect with one another? What do they really know? Is this a surface level knowledge, or can they go into depth about this? No depth, no interest, because my clients wanted deep knowledge of things. So we start off with knowledge of the basics. Can they do the basics of the role? Going into more depth. And again, the question is, do they feel more prepared? I don't think preparation is the question. I think, or should be the question. I believe what the question is, do you get more solid results from doing this? And the answer without doubt is yes, you do. You can eliminate people who aren't qualified and find people, confirm that they are. Now, I got a question from James. Thanks for the opportunity. My question is, how long would job seekers wait for an offer after the second interview before following up? James, I know you don't know my theory about asking this question, so let me just cover it and say, ideally at the time of your interview, one of your final questions would be, could you give me an idea of when I might hear about next steps in the process? This is probably the next to the last question that you might ask. So you would ask that question, and let's say today is Tuesday, and they said early part of next week. So is it okay if I follow up with you Thursday or Friday if I haven't heard from you? And that's the method that I look at. Knowing that people on their side have lots of things on their plate, I want to get a sense from them telling me when I should follow up. Now, let's go to the assumption now that you haven't done that and you did the interview Monday, yesterday. I would not let it go over the weekend. I would follow up on Thursday and simply say, I forgot to ask you about when I should follow up. Do you have any feedback? Could you give me a sense of next steps in the process, if there are going to be next steps in the process? And if you're not sure when I might hear about next steps, I would not let it go over the weekend. I would start on Thursday with a call in the late morning, and then one in the late afternoon if I haven't heard back from them. It could be a text, it could be a phone call, whatever it is, but reach out to them on Thursday, Friday, following a Monday interview. That gives them a couple of days to collect feedback. They may respond to you by saying, we have a few more people to talk to. And if they end it there, you have to ask the question. So when would it make sense for me to follow up with you if I haven't heard from you? They'll tell you, and again, you follow up by referring to a couple of days after that, and say, so if you said Monday, so if I haven't heard from you, let's say Wednesday, Thursday, is it okay if I follow up with you? They'll say sure, or they may say wait. Wait is a sign that says you're being too pushy. Back off. Wait also means they're not all that excited. If they were excited, they tell you more rather than tell you to be quiet and wait. They'd be selling to you, we just got one more person to talk to. We really think highly of you. They'd say stuff like that instead. And thus, for someone like yourself, like I said, a couple of days after the second interview, I would follow up. I certainly would not wait a week. And if you have, today's a good day to contact them. So I hope that's helpful to you, James. If you've got more, put it into chat. I'm happy to answer your questions, okay? And again, for those of you who missed the beginning, if you've got a question about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, career change, dealing with different workplace issues, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer. And James, thank you for being courageous and putting your question in. And thank you for calling me coach, because that is what I do. I didn't put the hat on for the show today, but now I will, because you knew my name, Coach. So we've got a couple of questions that have been sent in. Should people hire based on passion over experience? No. And why are it's a one or another? It should be both. Like when you listen to me talk about careers and job search, you hear a guy who both knows his material and is passionate about being of service to people. Why should anyone have an either or choice? You want to get both from people, because these are people who, because of their passion, display that they care. Care is one of the qualities you should be looking for in someone. I apologize if you've heard me say this before, because it feels like I say it in almost every show I do. When companies hire, competence is only one thing they look for. They look for self-confidence, character, chemistry, maybe a little bit of charisma. Charismatic people always do better than non-charismatics, right? That you care, that you can connect with people, because they want to trust you. And without trust, you're not going to get hired. So the long and the short of it is, it's not one or the other. It should be both. And a person who's passionate but knows nothing is useless to you. And a person who goes through the motions and has a lot of experience, you may find it very difficult to work with them, and your team may have difficulty in working with them. So try and get both. Work at doing that. Don't just focus on one versus the other. Can a potential employer find out why you were fired? I'm going to skip the grooming one, because frankly, I'm a guy. I'm not the best person to reference for grooming. So I'll just focus on the one: employer find out why you were fired. Often no, in practice yes. And first of all, they can find out you were fired by simply asking, is this person eligible for rehire? No. Okay. Or is this person eligible to be rehired? We're not permitted to answer that kind of a question. Why not? It's against company policy. I can assure you that if you were eligible for rehire, there'd be no company policy prohibiting it. The prohibitions are against people saying something negative about someone that could be detrimental to a person's future. But the absence of the positive is viewed as a negative. So often companies will have policies that don't permit it. And I saw a great little story about reference checks. I want to say Kevin Kelly from Wired Magazine was being interviewed on a podcast. And he said the way he checks references is he sends an email or he leaves a voicemail to the effect of, I want to check a reference with you about so-and-so. If you were not completely enthusiastic about this person, don't call me back. In other words, no response, no interest. Because it's a signal that if they're not willing to pick up the phone and say, of course I love this guy, or words to that effect, it's a neutral to bad reference. So recognize that there's little tricks that firms can play to get information out of your current employer. So I'll simply say, I don't care about the grooming question there. What I care about is the reference check question. There's always a way to find out. And they may not go directly to HR and get an answer. They may back channel it to someone within the organization who you may not have listed as a reference, who they happen to know, or they know someone who knows someone, and get a reference done. I know they're not supposed to do that, but that is what they do. Okay, another good question. What is the purpose of second round interviews? And what are some examples of questions that might be asked during this type of interview? Is it okay to tell an interviewer you need a quick response because you're holding another offer? Um, I've got a lot of them on my website, thebiggamehunter.us, or on YouTube at jobsearchtv.com. You can go to YouTube, you can go to my website. On YouTube, there's a playlist of interview questions. There are many marked as second interview questions, third round questions, or final interview questions. Go through those. This would be a show in and of itself to provide those questions that would be asked. I also have mistakes that people make on interviews that can show up on second or final round interviews. Again, go through that material. Now, is it okay to tell an interviewer you need a quick response because you have another offer? The answer is yes, but I wouldn't say it that way. At the end of the interview, after they've had a chance to evaluate you, I would say to them, I just want you to be aware I have another offer. I really like this position. I just want to encourage you, if you decide I'm the right person for you, and certainly I think this is a great opportunity for me, I just want you to make your strongest offer. Well, what's the other offer for? I don't want this to be you beat them by $500. I want you to evaluate me and make a decision based upon your perceived value. But I do have another offer. It's a good one. It's a great firm, good position, but I like this one better. So I want to encourage you to respond as quickly as possible to this interview. And if you're not interested, I'm okay with that. I just want to make you aware that I had another offer and leave it at that. Okay. Now, I'm going to remind you, if you've got a question about job search, hiring, management, leadership, changing careers, or want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it. Also, my website, thebiggamehunter.us, is a site where you can schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session. I'll also encourage you to visit my blog with more than 12,000 searchable posts. You can also find out about my courses that you can rent or buy. You rent them for 72 hours over a 30-day period. It becomes a good way that you get some good interviewing material from me. Also, I've got books and guides on Amazon that you can order through my website. It'll direct you to the page and you can order stuff there. Lastly, subscribe to jobsearchtv.com on YouTube. Download it as an app on Amazon. And my podcast, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, is the old guy, the OG in the job search space with more than 2,400 podcast episodes. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's hosted on Anchor. Because when I moved the show over to Anchor, I had to have two lists there on Anchor and probably on Apple Podcasts. The older shows, those more than I think 2 years old, are on a playlist called The Original No BS Job Search Advice Radio. So again, more than 2,400 podcast episodes, and you can subscribe. It's Monday through Friday. Most of the shows are 4 to 8 minutes. And then I do one long interview that's released on Friday so that you can listen to it over the weekend and work from there. So I hope you take me up on these offers, and I've got more questions. The next one I thought was a fun one. I spotted this one in the notes that were prepared for me for today, and I'm going to give you the comical answer. Ready? What professions allow you to make the most mistakes but still have a job the next morning? Ready? Here's my answer. Elected politician. These people make so many mistakes. They are so wrong about so many different things. And they wake up the next day and they have a job. Now, after a year or 2 or 4 or 6, they may not have a job, but they make a mistake one day and they've still got a job another day. Okay. I hope you found the humor in that one. Okay. So, what happens if two candidates have the same answers for interview questions? After a job interview, do you send a thank you note or email to the person who will be your direct supervisor or to everyone you interviewed along the way? Okay, I'm going to take these as two separate questions from two different people. So, if two candidates have the same answers for interview questions, doesn't mean anything. You each met a baseline. And if you think back to what I said earlier, competence is only one thing they look for. They're looking for other attributes as well. Those other attributes become the deciding factor as to whether they choose you or someone else. And the statistical probability that everyone has the same answer to the same questions is very small. Don't focus on that. Focus on impressing people instead. Now, part two is after a job interview, do you send a note or email to the person who will be your direct supervisor or to everyone you interviewed with along the way? The answer is to everyone you interviewed with along the way, including the supervisor. So they each get a personalized email. I say email rather than note because you want to influence them quickly so that if they're not sure between you and someone else, the email can influence them to choose you. If you're relying upon the mail to deliver something, good luck. I've just had two bills never get to me. And having to plead with credit card companies that they remove the late charges because I never received the bill. So, just send it as an email. Make it very simple. And one of the things in making it simple is you affirm some of the things in your background that are important to them for this role. In doing that, you're reminding them about you and the benefits of hiring you. And that's huge because, trust me, they forget. They forget. You want to be the person who's always top of mind with every person that you meet with. And if you just sit back and wait for the phone ring like a date who's waiting for a call for a date for the weekend, not good. So again, you want to put yourself in the position of being memorable. I'm not saying you go to the parking lot or on your walk to the subway or the bus that you type it immediately. An hour later is fine. And I just want you to know how interested I am in the role. I just want to state to you that I think my background would fit a lot of things that you're looking for. And let me walk you through a couple of the points that made sense. I think will make sense for why I'm qualified to do this role. And you reiterate some of the points of the interview and then go from there. Now, James came back to me and said, Coach, I'd like to clarify. I noticed that the director of HR, where I did my second interview, viewed my LinkedIn profile yesterday. Is it ideal or a way to disqualify my candidacy? It could be either way. After all, if there's something incongruent between what you told them and what your profile says, that can be a disqualifier. They also may have wanted to remember something about you because someone forgot or they weren't sure or they've spoken to four people and they were confusing you with one of the others. So they look for clarification. Someone may have also said, where does he work? Oh, yeah, I remember him. There's no way of really knowing. Certainly, if they're not interested, they don't have a need to go to your profile. So it tends to be either confusion, looking for a reason to say no because they discover something incongruent, because they forgot something or they're confusing you with someone, or there's nothing really negative about it. Again, unless your profile is incongruent with what their expectations are. Okay. Let's see if you, and James, again, if you've got more or if anyone has more, just put your questions into chat. I'd be very happy to answer. Now, another question. And this one is, what do hiring managers look for on your LinkedIn profile? Do endorsements matter? Um, Endorsements advantage people who are more experienced and less experienced. They do matter insofar, not as much as recommendations, by the way, but in recommendations are always preferred because they're text. It's someone who knows you, likes you, trusts you, and respects you, writing about you and your work and providing some detail. That's always positive because if it's not positive, you can reject the recommendation. But endorsements, like if you've got 750 endorsements for something, like I think I've got more than 1,000 in a number of categories. It looks good, right? 1,000 people think he's good about such and such. That's good. So numbers matter. That's true in recommendations. That's true in endorsements. And what do they look for on your profile? As I was saying to James a moment ago, they're looking for something incongruent. They're looking about something in your background to see if it catches their eye. They could be recruiting for a position, and they want to see, they're looking for people who have certain types of experiences. There's lots of things that they look for as part of the evaluation process in order to figure out if someone should be contacted by them for an interview. Okay, let's continue on. Can a prospective employer generally find out if a candidate was fired for cause? Normally, not directly, because fired for cause, um, it's one of these things that firms tend to avoid answering directly. They answer it by saying, you know, was this person eligible for rehire? No. And it's not just the tone of voice. Not eligible for rehire signals to another firm that you didn't do a good job. That's good enough for them to want to reject you. So, can they find out if you were fired for cause? Um, Sometimes. Certainly, if they back channel to get to people and not just going through the front door through HR, they can. But when all is said and done, um, you don't want to ever be in that position. Do good work. Don't be a jerk. Do good work. If an employer told me I should hear from a recruiter on or about 10 business days, does that mean I'm hired? No. It just means you're going to hear back in 10 days about next steps or a decision of some sort. The decision would be to hire. It could also be to say, we're not interested. Good luck. Have a great day and a great life. Bye. So all it means is you should hear from them no later than 10 days from now. I would also say put a reminder in your phone to contact them on day 11. And the message can be, when I interviewed, I was told I'd hear back in about 10 days. I haven't heard anything yet. Is the position still open? Are you still interviewing? Something along those lines. Not, are you hiring me? Oh, no. I have more interviews. Nothing like that, okay? I think I'm going to do one more question after this. So, what do software engineering managers generally do when they see a very slow engineer making very few contributions? Usually, what they'll do is they'll bring them into their office. They'll start off with, "Hi, how's it going? How's the job treating you?" "Good, good. Hey, look, I got to ask you a question. Do you remember when I interviewed you. I told you what my expectations are. Do you remember what I told you? Good, good. Because right now it seems like you're working a lot slower. And I'm not getting what I need from you. So I'm not making any threats here, but I want you to step up your game because there can be consequences that are outside of my control if your performance stays at this abysmal level. So step it up, please. I don't want to be threatening. I just want you to step up your work because I think you can do a great job. Final question for today, unless someone puts one in chat. What do interviewers normally look for when they ask for more years of experience and limit the age in job applications? So I would say this is someone from outside the U.S. because in the U.S., you cannot say we only want to hire people less than 35 years old or 40 years old. Ostensibly, someone can be qualified at all ages, and you don't want to be accused of age discrimination, as your question would invite someone to see. Now, when they look for someone more years of experience, what they're saying is, we want a senior person. We don't want a junior. And we think someone with 10 to 15 years or 15 to 25 years of experience will have enough experience for us. Yes, there are people who are exceptional, who do things ahead of the curve at a very young age, but they are rare, and we think it serves us better if we find someone with, let's say, 15 to 25 years of experience, who has the knowledge we need, a great attitude, who's willing to do the work and can do a great job. By the way, I like my new glasses. I think they look great. See, new glasses. So I just simply say what they're looking for is your competence vis-a-vis the role involved. And as for limiting the age, I don't have an answer for you because my experience as a US-centric professional is that they don't limit the age legally. And thus, you're not in a situation where that part of the question should be of concern. So I hope you found today's show helpful. I'm Jeff Altman. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a ton in the blog to help you. Plus, you can schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session. You can find out about my courses, books, and guides. There's a lot there to be of service. Also, subscribe to jobsearchtv.com on YouTube. Download it on Amazon as an app. Download bingenetworks.tv and watch me there. More than 300 live streaming services around the world. You can watch me. And subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, where it's a video podcast, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe. There's a lot there to help you. And lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.